Hello everyone, my name is Satyam Raha, and in this video, let's talk about types of constructors and constructor overloading. Let's say I have a class A and I do not have anything inside, I do not have a body of this class. For example, let's keep it very simple. And now I want to create an object of A. Okay. Now, whenever I run this code, what happens behind the scene is a constructor is called. If I run this code, see nothing is printed, fine, but an object is created here. Now, how this object is created? Whenever you write new followed by the class name followed by the brackets, what happens is the Java compiler will search for a constructor in the definition of the class. And when it finds there is no such constructor provided, what it does is it provides default constructor. Now, how does a default constructor look like? It looks like this, nothing else, as simple as that. Okay, we do not see it, we do not provide it. That is why it is called default constructor, and it is provided by the Java compiler only when we, the developers, have not defined our own constructor in a class. Only in that case a default constructor will be provided by the Java compiler. Okay, just when this line is executed, what happens is this part of code is executed and the object is created. That's it. Now say for example uh, there are three types of constructors. One is the default constructor, which you just understood, and the second is no argument constructor. The third one is parameterized constructor. Now let's see the second one, what is called a no argument constructor. See, this is also called a no argument constructor. Okay, because this constructor, as you can see, doesn't take any argument in the parameter list, right? Its argument list is empty. That is why it is called no argument list. But you can argue that what is the difference between default constructor and no argument constructor? Obviously, see, when I am defining it, it's called no argument constructor. When I do not define anything, when I have nothing in my class, then the Java compiler will provide the constructor, and that is called a default constructor. So this is the first difference. Now say I have provided my own constructor, and this, as you know, is called the no argument constructor. Let's say this. Now the second difference between the default constructor and no argument constructor is that you can have a body of a no argument constructor, unlike a default constructor. Default constructor doesn't have a body. Okay, it is empty body. But in a no argument constructor, you can write anything you want. You can have, say, in say no argument constructor. Okay, so you can have anything. You can have a body. Only thing is that you cannot have a parameter list. That is why it is called no argument constructor. Now how does it work is, say, when this line is executed, that is an object is being created. Now what will happen is a constructor will be called. Now since you have provided the constructor, which is the no argument constructor, in this case this particular piece of code will be executed whenever this line is executed. Okay, so let's say I run this code. Now see, by default in no argument constructor is print. That means this particular constructor is invoked. Did I call this? No. Then how it is getting invoked? By this piece of code. Okay, so whenever you create an object using the new keyword, it always searches for a constructor, okay, corresponding constructor of that particular class. Now if it doesn't find any definition, what it does is the Java compiler provides that default constructor and it gets executed. But in the case when we have provided our own constructor, what happens is it executes that particular piece of code. Now see, you can have as many number of constructors as you want. Say I want to have another constructor. Okay, now see, the only difference is we must defer the constructors with the signatures. The signatures of the constructor should be different. Say for example, I want to send an integer value here. Now what will happen? I can write anything here. Okay, say I want to print a, for example. Okay, now if I run this code, what will happen? Will this piece of code get executed? No, obviously no. Why? Because these these will be executed. Because see, when we are creating the object, we are not sending any argument. That means when we are not sending any argument, which constructor of these two constructors will be executed? Obviously the no argument constructor. Now say for example I want to send some value 8, okay, while creating the object. Now that particular constructor which matches the signature, it will get executed. Now if I run this code, see, 8 is printed. That means this no argument constructor is not called this time. This time this parameterized constructor is called. Why it is called parameterized constructor? Because it has got some parameters in the list. I can have many. I can have say another one. Say for example I have some double x comma int p, for example, maybe. Okay, so I can have say x plus b, maybe. It's an error, so let's just convert this to double. Let's just uh sorry, I not working that way. So let's do one thing. Let's have like the int is say x, right? Plus x plus uh double e, for example, b. Here for a new line. Okay. Now if I execute this code, will not get executed unless and until I send some double value along with integer value. Now this constructor will be called. You see the int is 0.9 plus is not. Okay, it gets executed. So this concept, when the constructor is resolved at runtime, is called constructor overloading. Okay, why is it called runtime polymorphism? It is called runtime polymorphism, right? Why is it called runtime polymorphism? Because the object is created at runtime, and when an object is created, only then the particular or corresponding constructor is invoked. So it is done at the runtime, it is resolved at the runtime. That is why this is an example of runtime polymorphism. That is what constructor overloading is, runtime polymorphism. Okay, so you can have as many constructors as you want, as long as the signature of the constructor is different, and depending on the parameter list here, the particular constructor will be called and resolved at runtime. Okay, so that's for it for this video. For watching. See you in the next video.